see a question from Carmen. Thank you very much for your question. When business objectives are not aligned with what the design team has uncovered, I'm sure this happens a lot where you're like at this point and you're trying to negotiate. How do you get around these impasses from an experience you've had?
Our business objective is to enable users to finish their workflow as fast as possible. That was the initial business objective. It makes sense, right? From A to B, you want the users to go quickly. But then when the designers come into play and they look at the end-to-end flow, and the question is that based on our user understanding, they don't always want to finish job from A to B because they have a planning stage to do to prepare for the job. And sometimes they need sign off from their managers or from other teams so they can actually proceed. So it's not a linear journey. So when we identify that, right, our question is that, hey, this metrics makes sense, but you also need a counter metrics, meaning that while we enable the users to finish the job from A to B smoothly, if they don't want to do that, they should be able to easily do so. So that is the counter metrics, right, to evaluate. So I think that's where, designers, not just designers, right, anyone, any function can kick in, right, to challenge each other's assumptions or business objectives.
Metrics are going to tell you what's happening, but not necessarily why. And so being able to go from the quantitative to the qualitative and the field work to understand what's going on. And again, sometimes organizations don't have big research arms, but still, you can always go talk to your users, or you can hopefully all go talk to your users. Because as long as you can get alignment and agreement on the problem, on the customer problem, and on the business value you're trying to deliver, then it's more like a puzzle piece of, okay, what's the most efficient way to put these things together? And what are the considerations we need to go against it? Like, the advice I'd give is, like, if you find yourself in a position where you are in conflict with another partner, is there a way that you can upframe the conversation so that you can get to a place of agreement of what the goals are? Because if you can get to the place of agreement of goals, then you can start to be creative about other ways that you can try to solve it.
How would you, so I think then it becomes more of an effort on that front, right? Using data and evidence to have that conversation. What advice would you give there?
One piece of advice, which is something I try to do, whether I was an IC or as a manager entering a new environment, is, first you need to manage your inputs and your outputs, right? Like, the way that we stay sane is to understand what people are asking of you, to make sure that it's not more that you can do, to be clear on what the goal is. And then on the output side, like, to have alignment with your engineering partners about, like, okay, I know you need everything yesterday, but, like, this is what I'm going to deliver first. And then I will deliver this, and, like, can we work together to find a way to deliver this incrementally so that you're not blocked? And for the designers to be close enough to the developers to, again, to develop that empathy, to understand, like, oh, the poor developer has, 40 tickets they're trying to work through in Jira. I'm going to try to create some sanity from that and, make a picture of what the world should be, and then we can incrementally work towards creating it. So, I think creating that allyship at the ideation phase, whether that's with a product manager or a development manager or a business or CEO, is one piece. And the second allyship that's really important is with the developer, because it's the person who has hands on keyboard that actually determines what your experience is. So, building that relationship with them and finding people who take a great deal of pride in what they make and who care deeply about who customers are, they'll be really interested in hearing what you learn too. Like, everyone wants to understand what the problem is, because then we can all contribute our own point of view about what the solution could be. Yeah,
I'm just chiming in a little bit. I think one thing in terms of building empathy, it really is to, one thing that always works, right, is to bring developers or PMs or your senior leadership into the research sessions so that they can see firsthand what is the problem, right? And that level of empathy really needs to be built, right, in front of your own eyes. It's not so much about, hey, I tell you so, right? And I think another thing really resonates with me, what Micah shared, is to be friends, right, with your cross-functional partners, with your engineers. At the same time, to tell them what you want. Meaning that, for example, when I was in one of the teams I worked for, right, in one of the companies, the front-end developers, whatever they came up with, right? It's just far from what the design was. It's just like, black and white. So I was a little bit disappointed, but I didn't say it, right? I just sit next to the developer to show him that, hey, here's the design, here's what your front end result is, right? You can see that this button is different size, the padding is different, the typography is different, like even the color is not exactly the same, right? Can we change those? So break it down of what is wrong. Don't tell people, hey, everything's wrong, then where do I start, right? So be very tangible and specific so that people can actually take your feedback. And I remember with this developer, after twice I gave him this specific feedback, he had no problem at all. It was identical to the design because he actually understands what is this designer is asking me to do. So I think that's helpful too.